Hey, welcome back to Fantasy Football Gameplan. We've got a new name, a new season, but the same fantasy obsession. I'm Judy, and I've got analyst Quinten here to talk some rookies today.
Yeah, I'm excited to get back into it. It's summer, it's been off the mind, but I'm in a couple dynasty leagues. It's been a good excuse to dive into these rookies, and I think there's a lot of exciting players. So it should be fun getting into it.
Yeah, fair. We're diving into players you might need to know before your draft day. Spoiler alert, not every not every rookie is worth drafting. I've been doing some best ball, so I've been actually picking up quite a few of the rookies. I think I get a little more excited about their potential than they may deliver, but at least there's like hope at this time of the season.
Yeah, rookies at least offer the unknown. They're the mystery box of what are they going to be in the NFL? Who knows how they'll turn out. We won't be talking about the top end rookies. We'll save those for the divisional breakdowns, and we won't be talking about really the seventh rounders or really those outside shot, but those mid round guys is who we'll be breaking down going into training camp.
Yeah, those guys that might get their break and break it wide open mid-season, and you'll be ahead of the curve for the waiver wire.
Yeah, at
So
least
let's
you'll
get started.
recognize the name.
Yeah, exactly. Because some of these guys I wasn't recognizing the first best ball draft I did.
All right, before we get started, we are about to head into training camp. That should be starting here in a couple weeks, later in July. But before we get started, I found some articles, all of wide receivers here in the past 4 or 5 years. And I just kind of wanted to show some cautionary tales of things you might hear during these training camp buzzes that people are in the best shape of their life, that this is their season, this is their shot. And we get so many puff pieces that are just kind of garbage, just fake news, just writers trying to have something out there during training camp. So the first one I wanted to bring up was a quote of Laviska Shenault and the coaches being interviewed that he's bigger, faster, a better route runner than he was in a rookie. He's going to get constant buzz during the offseason. He's ready for a breakout campaign. Yeah, that didn't quite happen.
No.
Um, we also have ridiculous stories like Jamar Chase, who was a top 10 pick and he was always supposed to be great. And then we get into training camp and suddenly he doesn't know how to catch a football in the NFL, that it's not the white LSU ball and he's dropping everything and he's already being labeled by a bus, that he can't get separation on routes. And he turned out pretty good. So
He
I
must have been
think
a
if
bargain that year in drafts.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can send those articles to your teammates that are trying to avoid Ashton Genty that maybe fumbled once in training camp and now he's not going to be the starter, go send that to the rest of your league. But something to weed through. We also have some honest reports, and there's some really good reporters out there that put out good content that kind of clued us into Puka Nakua a couple years ago. So there's a couple really good Rams reporters that were constantly going through and mentioning constant buzz about Puka Nakua. And that's what you're really looking for, is that steady news. You're looking for who's playing with the ones, who's playing with the twos. But yeah, this article from Jason D'Alessandro really highlighted that due to Cooper Kupp's injury, Puka's stepping forward, this fifth round rookie receiver that no one thought would be a critical role of that Rams team from day one. And then we can even see, as little as last year, Jalen Polk was all the buzz, labeled a breakout candidate, and he ended up fielding one of the worst rookie seasons from a second round pick. So a lot to sift through while we get into training camp, but at least be aware of the names so that when you do see it, you have a prior perception to sift through.
All right, let's get into this year's rookies. And who are you loving?
So, yeah, these are the players where you really can't sway me. Even if I hear they are fumbling and having issues in training camp, I think they're going to be good pros.
All right, so
Starting
you
off,
got to convince me about this. I know one on this list. You can't. There's nothing you can do to convince me.
all right, I'm excited for that argument. I wanted to kick it off with one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft. He was taken in the second round. He is currently wide receiver 58 on ADP for fantasy drafts, and that is Tre Harris for the Chargers. So, one thing that stood out for Tre Harris is that he is an outlier when it comes to yards per route run. And yards per route run is a metric that captures how much they're actually running routes, and when they're actually on the field, are they valuable? Is the team looking to go to them as their primary weapon? And a good benchmark for yards per route run is around 3. It's elite in what we see from Chase, Puka, Neighbors, the top end. And he was at 5.12, far and away the best of this rookie class. There is some kind of qualifiers with that. We do see these offenses that really have a tough time translating to the NFL, primarily like Ole Miss, where Tre Harris went, and Tennessee, where they're not going to be asked to run these college schemes. So he's an outlier, and he does have that potential, but I think it's going to shine through, and I think when he's asked to do more in a larger role, then he could do. So what's your feeling on
Okay.
Tre Harris?
I don't really feel like there's room in the quite crowded wide receiver locker room of the Chargers. Why is he going to come in and suddenly take work from McConkey or Quinton Johnston, who we saw come on late in the season last year? Why is Tre Harris going to translate?
Absolutely. And I think Quinton Johnson is one of the bigger regrets of this Chargers recent draft history. He just hasn't produced like a first round wide receiver. And you can see that they spent up for a second round pick to invest in Tre Harris as that X receiver. And so him and McConkey will play completely different roles. And I liken it to those old Chargers teams that had Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Mike Williams is making a return tour to this team, but they want that true X wide receiver that can do it all. And Justin Herbert's one of the best deep passing quarterbacks in the league. So I just really like the chemistry there. And also, I think that Harbaugh is going to love this guy. This guy is a football guy through and through, and I think he's going to spotlight it, as we can see that in high school, he played with Malik Neighbors, and Neighbors went up to him like every day and was like, man, I'm going to be an NFL wide receiver. I need a quarterback. I need you to be the quarterback. We can't both be good wide receivers. And he made him play quarterback in high school until, yeah. And then Tre Harris went back to being a wide receiver in college, went to a smaller school, then transferred to Ole Miss. And so I think he's just a football guy, and that's what Harbaugh loves, and he's going to be tough to keep off the field.
I think Harbaugh got what he really loves, and that's two new running backs. So they picked up Najee Harris, and then they drafted Omarion Hampton, and that's what I feel like Harbaugh truly loves, are running backs.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm excited for that entire offense, but we did watch later in that year Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh shift their thing to being like, wow, okay, this is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. We're going to let him air it out. And they had more success.
They
Hopefully
had to,
that
because
continues.
that running backfield last year was lacking, and they
Yeah,
made the most of
depleted.
it. Yeah, but all right, I'm on the fence on Tre Harris.
He's a high upside play, but he's more risky than the next guy we're going to be talking about. So the next person we're going to be talking about, he's currently being drafted as running back 25, and he is the Steelers' round 3 Kaleb Johnson. Also, just a quick reminder, the Steelers did not have a second round pick, so this is their second pick of this draft. And man, I love this guy. He is a bell cow, and I think he's just going to work perfectly in what Arthur Smith wants to do, and he was drafted specifically for this role to be a lead back.
All right, you just said my concern. You said Arthur Smith. This is Bijan all over again.
I think he's more of a Tyler Algier, where
Well, hey, guess what? He still has Cordell Patterson too, so we can't forget about that.
And Jaylen Warren is the incumbent, but Jaylen Warren is not a bell cow, and that's been the consistent thing through pressers and what Tomlin has said and what Arthur Smith has said. They said heavy workload. We love this guy. He can be an every down back. And
Nope.
so he got.
I heard that all with Arthur Smith and Bijan, and I can't do it again. I will never ever believe in Arthur Smith again. and that he wants a bell cow or will like actually use a bell cow. He just loves to confuse us and make us scratch our heads on why they can't do better.
I do think that this is the type of runner that succeeded in the Arthur Smith system. And actually, my like comps for him are somewhere between Najee Harris, Tyler Algier, and Derrick Henry. And an amalgamation of all those, and you get Kaleb Johnson because they all three have this upright running style. Really, just the one cut. Like Bijan is very agile. He's very loose, and I think Arthur Smith couldn't stand that. Just hit the hole, make your one read, and get up the field. And that's Kaleb Johnson. He got penalized in the draft and falling to the third round. I think he was a second round talent, but he had a really poor combine and he had a slow 40. And that's what kind of made his draft stock fall before. But when you watch his highlights, it's not like he's not fast. He just wasn't a good sprinter without pads in a random empty field. But you watch his highlights and he has breakaway speed. He was hitting 70, 80-yard runs. And it reminds me of Derrick Henry, where he's not that fast, but as he's building up that speed, you just can't catch him. And suddenly every defender is taking the wrong angle and he's shooting past them and has that breakaway potential. To give an idea of how effective he was for Iowa, Iowa only scored 3.1 touchdowns a game last season, and he averaged 2 touchdowns a game. So he was almost their entire offense that teams had a game plan around. He was still elite in college.
I think this highlights that we look at rookies a little bit different. You clearly watch more college ball than I do and the film and study their stats. And I dive a little bit more into the situation that they are walking into in the NFL. And because of that situation, because of Arthur Smith, and then we can mention the other poison on that team, Aaron Rodgers, there's no way I'm going to draft this guy.
That's really the one I'm watching out for, is how many times is Aaron Rodgers just going to ignore the play call and do what he wants. Then it might get a little
We saw
dicey,
that last year. Breece Hall, we were all drafting him really high, thinking this was going to be it. And yeah, between Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith, I'm out on any of the running backs for the Steelers.
I think to give some range there, Tyler Algier, his rookie year, went for about almost 1,200 scrimmage yards and 4 touchdowns. And then Najee last year was about 1,300 yards and 6 touchdowns. I think you're looking about that range, and I think he's going to have a little bit more flash than people think. So, excited for him.
Yeah,
but I don't think I've convinced you.
You have not convinced me. I remember screaming about Bijan and getting burnt on the whole Bijan situation with Arthur Smith, and I can't do it. So let's go on to a running back that I do like the situation that he's walking into, and that's Qinshon Judkins for the Cleveland Browns. The Browns, I guess they earned a lot of draft picks by not doing very well. But Judkins is coming in and he's being handed the starting running back role. And behind him is Jerome Ford. So he is going into this offense and he's the guy. He's the bell cow. What do you think about him? Do you love his style of running?
I think he is very explosive. He has always been elite at getting long rushes. So throughout his career, he was first at Ole Miss and then transferred to Ohio State. But about 9% of his carries went for over 15 yards, which is a crazy explosive run rate. And I don't really view it as a knock that he shared the backfield with TreVeyon Henderson, one of the other rookie running backs for Ohio State last year, because it just showed that, yeah, I can play with NFL talent. I deserve to be a thing. And they brought him in for that role. So I think he is going to be the day one starter. The only thing is the Brown situation. How many times do we think they're going to be in a red zone?
Hey, they got Joe Flacco. He's going to get them in the red zone every drive, right? It's going to be like a few years ago.
If they stick with I like them.
So these two running backs that we just talked about, Kaleb Johnson and Qinshon Judkins. They're going RB24 and RB25. You got to pick one. Who are you picking?
I think I like Kaleb Johnson. I do like the I just like his opportunity, and I think they're going to give him the backfield. And I think that offense should be a little bit better than Cleveland.
I think Arthur Smith is going to find a way to share that, and in the red zone, give it to Cordell Patterson.
I was looking at ADP earlier, though. So between both of those rookies, or whichever your preference is, the person right ahead of him is a veteran in Aaron Jones. So are you the mystery box of the rookie or the proven veteran in Aaron Jones for that toss-up?
I like the mystery box.
Okay. Yeah, that's where I'm at too. And you will see these rookies probably continue to climb as people become used to their names, and people like the mystery box. I do. I think both those rookies will have good opportunities, and I'd put them above Aaron Jones.
I would too, but I'm going to take Judkins over Johnson for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to one more wide receiver that I think I could just go by his jersey right now. Last year, Jaydon Daniels was my guy, and I ended up with his jersey. Emeka Egbuka. I'm not loving his name, but I don't know why I stumble on it or think of weird ways to say it. I think I create letters in it. Anyhow, he's fun to watch. He's exciting to watch. He got injured his junior year in college, but then returned to Ohio State for his senior year and set records. I got questioned at a pool party about Egbuka, and they're like, "Well, why do you think he's going to do well? Because Mike Evans is there, and they kept Godwin too." And they're healthy. And I'm like, no, you didn't just say that. You didn't just say that Godwin and Evans were healthy, because we all know that's not how the season's going to go. I don't really think that Godwin's going to start the season. My bigger worry isn't Evans or Godwin, but it's McMillan in Tampa Bay. But I think there's enough to go around for all of them. And this kid's fun to watch.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And I echo your statement there of, I think that's why we wanted to bring him up today, is because a lot of people look at that situation and think it's too crowded for him to have year one success. Maybe he'll be good in the future, but I think we both agree that we like his prospect this year.
I do. I think Evans and Godwin wanted to stay in Tampa. They took less. They could have had more if they would have gone somewhere else and put it out there. But I think there's a little secret that they wanted to be in Tampa Bay, and they drafted this wide receiver round 1. So maybe there's a little bit of concern of their health.
And who's going to know the personnel better and how they're progressing with different injuries and what they think of McMillan rather than the team? And the team decided it was an important enough need to go draft Egbuka in the first round. So they spent their first round pick on a wide receiver. And I don't think he's just going to ride the bench. I don't think they're going to invest their draft capital to not have him see the field.
I don't think so either. And they saw throughout that season, wide receivers get injured. It's a constant turnover of the health of a wide receiver. There's plenty to go around there as well. And that offense knows how to put up points.
Absolutely. And if you talk about a guy I don't think there's anyone better qualified to stick up for his target share and make sure that he's getting the ball, because he's always dealt with a contested wide receiver room since when he was in Ohio State. Here were some of the wide receivers he played alongside with: Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Chris Olave, and the new phenom of Jeremiah Smith. And throughout that time, he became OSU's most productive wide receiver ever. So I think he's fully equipped to make sure he's getting the ball and produce day one.
Yeah, I think I'll just go buy the jersey now. He's my go-to wide receiver, I think, later in rounds of drafts. I like to watch him. I noticed that there's one wide receiver that wasn't on your list that we've talked a little bit about, and that's McMillan for the Carolina Panthers. Are you in or out on him?
So I'm very high on McMillan. I was kind of saving him for the Carolina episode because I think he's going to be day one starter. and day one clear alpha of that room. But he really just has a do it all. And I'm really impressed by first his target share. He just dominated that Arizona Wildcat offense. And he was the person that always stuck out on film. I think he is going to be a great pro, but we'll dive into that more on the Panthers episode.
All right. I'm not as in on how do I say his first name? Do you know? Tetrano?
Tetaroa.
Tetaroa McMillan for the Carolina Panthers. You're high on him. I'm taking Egbuka. There's lots of rookie wide receivers out there. I'm really excited about the running backs and the wide receivers in this group this year.
It wasn't a great quarterback class, but as far as the other skill positions, I like even the tight ends are exciting to talk about, and I think could be year one starters. And yeah, this is a phenomenal, especially rookie running back class, but I think there's some standout wide receivers.
All right, so who are you out on? Who is going to be a disappointment? You've got your crystal ball. Predict us a disappointing rookie.
Yeah, and it's not fun. These are young guys that are just getting their shot to say, hey, yeah, he's going to be a bust. So when we say we're out, it's not that they're going to be a complete bust. It's just I don't see that mystery box as a good bet. That is one I'm turning down, and someone else can take that chance. And that would be
like
Matthew
Arthur
Golden.
Smith.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Who was that?
Matthew Golden. So the Packers wide receiver, he was a round one wide receiver. Round one wide receivers typically have a great hit rate, but he falls into the class that typically doesn't. So he's a fun player to watch. He stood out in the college football playoffs. He had a great combine, the fastest 40 of the entire year. He ran a 4.2, and then he saw his draft stock skyrocket. So if we look back in December, who we were projecting to be the top wide receivers of this class, he wasn't even a top 10 name. He wasn't even top 14 or someone we were talking about. We were actually talking more about his teammate, Isaiah Bond, who's had some off-the-field issues. But he wasn't even looked at as the top wide receiver on his own team. And then he stood out in those games, which I will, to his credit, he stood out in the toughest games against the toughest defense.
So how is this bad? He stood out against really in good games, against good defenses, and you don't like him because he stood out.
It's just that when we look back at these types of players that have key games or they have very fast 40s that skyrocket their draft capital, we kind of lose sight of their entire career and who they were and just think about those moments. And we have a collection of this type where in the past we've seen Will Fuller, John Ross, DJ Chark, Paris Campbell, Tyquan Thornton, all first or second round picks that their primary thing was their speed, their great 40 times, and they just didn't work out in the pros. And the biggest red flag for Golden is he had such a low target share. So his target share was about 18.1 of when he's running a route, how often is he actually throwing the football? How much is the quarterback looking his way or plays being drawn up for him? And he was only at 18.1, which was 41st percentile. To give you an idea of some of the other rookie wide receivers, McMillan was at 30.9. Hunter was at 25.9. Jaydon Higgins was at 31.4. And Luther Burden was at 26.9. So if he couldn't emerge as an alpha in college and he got drafted by the Packers that are looking for that alpha wide receiver, if he couldn't do it in college, why do I think he can do it in the pros?
Sounds like he's just going to be another Packers wide receiver, and every week we're going to be scratching our heads. Which Packers wide receiver is it going to be this week?
Yeah.
Just like last year.
I do kind of like him a lot more in best ball, where you don't have to make the decision to start him, and you can get explosive plays. He's a fun player to watch, but I don't think I'm going to draft him for any redraft fantasy leagues.
All right. I don't really have anyone that I'm totally out on. Maybe Shadur Sanders. I don't like that whole situation, so I'll just stay out of there. I don't know. Maybe they'll decide they want to win, but I got a feeling they're just going to play Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett. And you think are they going to let Deshaun Watson back in the training facility, or did they lock him out?
they've changed the codes since he
Changed the
last
codes,
left.
moved
But
on.
yeah, don't be
They
the
should,
person to draft a 6th-round rookie quarterback just because he has Sanders as the last name.
yeah. He did a lot to fall in the draft as opposed to Matthew Golden, who accelerated. So they're on opposite ends, but we don't want either one of them. All right, let's go through interesting situations. And who do you want to watch in training camp? Who do you need more information on?
Yeah, and this is almost the Puka Nakua category, or maybe we'll have an award after the training camp of who have we heard the most positive news. And these are some of the names just to be aware of, to look for in headlines that is this a pattern. So one person I wanted to bring up was Dante Thornton, Raiders 4th-round wide receiver, elite athlete, but Tennessee just did not utilize him that much. When he was on the field, he was highly productive. He just wasn't on the field that much. And like we were already talking about, Tennessee has a really weird college offense, and it makes it really hard to project how they're going to look in the pros. But if he looks better than expected, and reports are that he's already practicing with the ones in the OTAs. So if that's a pattern and if that's sticky, then I think he has the athletic profile to succeed.
All right, I can buy into that. The whole Raiders offense, I'm extremely interested in. We've got Geno Smith upgrading that quarterback situation, and then Ashton Genty coming in to run the ball, which I'm super excited about. And then we got Brock Bowers. So there's definitely room for some support there, and the other roles are filled very well. So he could be a wide receiver 3.
Yeah, absolutely. I like these teams that are trying to figure out their identity still. And the Raiders have so many new pieces that there's opportunity.
I agree. I like those two as opposed to Arizona that didn't draft any offensive players for fantasy that we're talking about. They didn't draft any, not that we're talking about. They didn't draft any fantasy players.
So
So
you want
they're
to,
going with their what?
yeah, they're running it back. But I was
Yeah.
talking about another team that's seen a lot of change. Do you want to run us through one of your favorite tight ends that you're interested in?
Yeah, the Jets. Mason Taylor. I'm excited to see what Mason Taylor has. I'm excited to see the Jets, but I'm concerned because it's the Jets. But we have all new coaching, all new, not all new players. I'm excited to see what Brees Hall can do, what Garrett Wilson can do now that we got Aaron Rodgers out of poisoning the locker room. And then they bring in Mason Taylor that they're going to give the starting tight end job to. He's going so low in drafts. He's a steal. Even in best ball, he's a steal, I feel like.
Yeah. And when you talk about rookie tight ends that are going to be on the field day one, he probably will be on the field more than Colston Loveland, even though he was taken a little bit later in the draft, but he is going to get the opportunity.
I think so too. And I'm excited to see what the Jets can do. I don't know. That's kind of weird rooting for the Jets.
Yeah, me too. I think Fields can bring some fantasy value.
I do too. It's going to be an interesting year there, but I did take them on their over. I think they were like 5.5 games, and I did take the over on the Jets.
The next player I want to bring up is the head. I'll say the hedge. I'll bring up this entire running back room, but want to focus on the rookie. Is Bayshul Tuten, the Jaguars round 4 running back, and the reason why I think he has a chance to actually cut out a valuable role in this backfield is you have Travis Etienne and you have Tank Bigsby there, who split carries last year. Neither of them are a dominant, clear running back. And this is a new GM. And this GM, this new head coach, chose Bayshul for their scheme. And even before the draft, Liam Cohen, the new Jags head coach, was talking up Bayshul Tuten. If he could choose one player that he loved to fit in his scheme, it'd be this person. And he has high-end speed. So it's really just going to come down to touches and what they're going to trust him with as a rookie. Important to keep an ear out of, is he running with the ones, the twos, or at the threes?
I won't mind not doing a waiver wire episode this year where I'm bringing up Tank Bigsby again and again, which is what I felt like I did last year.
Now it's not just Tuten. But
Yeah, hopefully it's not just Tuten, but I love the coaching changes here, the GM changes. bringing in another great rookie wide receiver that we'll have to talk about when we talk about Jacksonville, to be on the opposite of Brian Thomas Jr., that's going to be explosive as well, and a head coach that can probably, hopefully, rework Trevor Lawrence, who hasn't had a great run in his NFL career. I don't know how many coaches he's had, but I'd say
We
five.
just
I'd guess five.
Yeah, I think he ran through a couple, but hopefully he has some stability now. And we just watched Liam Cohen have tremendous success with a later round rookie running back in Bucky Irving. So
Yep.
if we get anything close to that, we'd be
All right.
tremendously happy.
I would love to be talking about Tuten, and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have just said that. What do you think of the Cowboys' backfield? So Jaydon Blue, their rookie. I am very interested to see what training camp brings for him, because I'm not buying into Javonte Williams or Miles Sanders in that backfield that are ahead of Jaydon Blue. So what do you think they brought Blue in to do?
So Jaydon Blue, he's out of Texas. They brought him down the road to play for the Cowboys, and he has elite speed and playmaking. But he's a smaller back, so I'm worried what his workload and whether they're actually going to trust him. I think it's going to be, did you learn your lesson? And the Cowboys have shown us in the past they've not. Like, we've let Zeke get the primary touches when we had Tony Pollard be the quicker, more athletic back. And then even last year, we had Zeke again, the return visit, and they refused to give their more explosive running backs a shot. So I think it's the one advantage we have of the season is both Javonte and Miles Sanders are new to the system. It's not like they're an incumbent back. It's not like they've been in the system before. So hopefully they learn their lesson and they do give Jaydon Blue more of a shot. And I think he will be highly efficient in his carries.
We do have a whole coaching change there, and now they have Brian Schottenheimer as their head coach. So that hopefully will take a little bit of a different approach than what we've seen in the years past with Dallas.
Yeah. So he is definitely a name to keep an eye out for of what is his workload going to look like.
I've only got one more, and that's Jaxson Dart, quarterback for. We haven't talked much about quarterbacks that were drafted. Like you said, they weren't super exciting, but he's going to the Giants, and I don't believe in Russell Wilson. And while I really hope that I get to see at least a game of Jameis Winston tossing the ball down the field to Malik Neighbors, I don't know that, his interceptions are going to get to him, and maybe we see Jaxson Dart later in the season.
I think there'll be some of the more fun preseason games to watch of actually just cluing in of how does he look on the pros, even if it's backups and stuff. Like we were talking earlier, that Ole Miss offense is hard to project to the next level. So if he's looked great during those preseason games, like I would buy it. Or if he looks terrible, I would buy that too. But the Giants have one of the hardest strength of schedules, and that coach and that GM are their performance this season is their job, and they're on the hot seat. They know it. If they don't get results, they're going to be out. And the quickest way to get hope on your team is a rookie quarterback, and that especially a rookie quarterback that can lead you to a couple wins.
Yeah, very true. Although it's still going to be fun if we get to watch Winston.
Yeah,
He's
no,
fun.
give a show. Let Malik Neighbors go for 1,800 yards. Just don't kill him
Yeah,
this time. Throw it down the field.
that would be awesome. You got anyone else?
So the last one I'll bring up is not as fun of a situation as some of the other ones we've talked about, but a ton of opportunity, I think. And that is basically the entire Titans training camp. This team is going to be searching for an identity. They have a new quarterback with Cam Ward at the helm, and they have so many rookie weapons that I think there's just opportunity for some of these names to pop up out of nowhere. And they have Alec Manor, wide receiver from Stanford, and then they also drafted another wide receiver that I wasn't as familiar with, Chimeri Deke, I think. And then they have an undrafted free agent that played with Cam Ward with Xavier Restrepo. And so it's like, all right, you have so many rookie wide receivers. It's interesting to see how that's going to shake out. And then I am interested in some of their other guys too. So they took a shot with Kellel Mullings, a running back out of Michigan, and he's
Yeah.
really interesting to me because he was a converted linebacker that just took the job from a 5-star uh, recruit like running back, and he took
That
the
is
job. He
interesting.
was their primary job, and it was only a second season playing running back. So I think there's just opportunity with the unknown.
There's a lot of unknown in Tennessee. I like that. It's going to be fun. But you're
Yeah,
right. That's definitely a situation. I did not realize how many of the wide receivers were rookies, that there are 3 rookies. And then if you look at who's also new, they brought in Tyler Lockett, who I was actually hearing reports that he may not even make the team. That's really going to elevate those rookies. Somebody's going to have to step up. Van Jefferson could definitely step into a bigger role in that rookie situation or in that wide receiver
but
room there.
if they get into training camp and they go, wow, this guy's a lot better than we thought, I don't think they'll be shy just handing over and making them a starter, cutting out a bigger role for them.
Definitely not. We don't have anyone here with a lot of history that's going to get priority. There's no Mike Evans here.
Yeah.
Well, that's fun. All right. So we've got lots of people to watch. I have one more game for you to play. We're going to do 3-minute fire off. Who would you rather? And so these are players that are all being drafted relatively about the same for their position. And you have to tell me which one you want to pick or the ones that you don't want to pick.
Okay.
All right. We're going to start off with tight ends: Kyle Pitts, Mason Taylor, or Hunter Henry.
So I don't think the rookie is going to be my pick in this one. I think I still just like Kyle Pitts, and I'll take the ups and downs, but I don't know why. It's just, hey, he's got a new quarterback at the helm. Who knows? Maybe this is the Kyle Pitts year. It's always going to be. It's training camp.
Yeah.
If this is the Kyle Pitts time, it's training camp. So,
This is
but
where
I
I go
will.
with the shiny new box and the shiny new toy, or I go Hunter Henry. But
Yeah,
I can't do what hasn't been working.
yeah. So because it's summer and because we're not actually playing NFL games, I'm going Kyle Pitts, and then probably Mason Taylor, and then Hunter Henry.
All right. Right before we kick off, I might bring these 3 comparisons back out again and see if it's changed your mind or not.
Yeah.
So the second one: Isaiah Pacheco, Kaleb Johnson, or Jalen Warren.
His teammate.
They're going like right next to each other in drafts right now because I think nobody knows who's Arthur Smith going to give it to, or is it just a committee? And they're both going about that range where it is committees already.
Yeah, and Kaleb Johnson, no running back room is a full, like, we're going to give even Derrick Henry, Justice Hill gets some snaps. Even Saquon is basically one of the only examples where you don't have that second reliever back. So I'm not too worried about Jalen Warren. I am going to go Kaleb Johnson here. I'm very excited for how he's going to fit into that scheme. I don't think he has the ceiling of a Derrick Henry, but I think he can immediately produce what Najee Harris was giving in that same exact offense.
Yeah, I want to believe that. I don't know. It's hard for me to believe in that offense with Aaron Rodgers. I know. Yeah, I go back to the same
You
points.
got your grudges.
I've got my grudges. Last one: Keon Coleman, Emeka Egbuka, or Jaydon Higgins.
So yeah, we didn't really get a touch on the Houston wide receiver duo. We'll break them down later, but I think in this one I'm going Egbuka. I think that he is just going to have a larger role than people think. Then I would go Keon Coleman and then Jaydon Higgins. That's just upside. I think if I was doing redraft, maybe I would take Jaydon Higgins above Keon Coleman because it's all.
We never got what we wanted out of Keon Coleman last year. We'd see like a game or a catch, and then we would be disappointed.
Yeah.
So I think we're all hoping again that he proves us wrong, that if we give up on him too early.
Yeah, but Josh Allen put together one of the best seasons we ever saw, and he had the opportunity. They didn't have a lot of other wide receivers, and he still couldn't get it done. So I think for that reason, I'll put Egbuka, then Higgins, then Coleman.
All right, makes sense to me. Any last thoughts?
No, I am excited to break down the divisions later this summer. We'll get into some of the rookies we didn't cover. You don't need another person to tell you that Ashton Genty is good. Maybe we'll fight over a little bit of McMillan and what he's going to look like and project like for the Panthers. But so if there's any rookies that weren't covered in this show, stay tuned for other episodes, and I'm sure we'll cover those in more detail.
Yeah, drop us a comment and let us know who you're excited to watch this year, who you think is maybe got the best situation that they're walking into and wasn't maybe drafted that high. So drop us a comment, let us know. If any of the women out there are looking to join an all women football loving community, please join us at fangirlfootball.com. The link's in our description. It's free to join. Come on over and join your team chats. And we're getting women to talk to other fans of their teams and putting together fantasy football leagues too.
Yeah, and if that's you or a loved one, those team channels are a great way to stay up to date with those training camp news that's going to be hitting here soon. I encourage everyone to go find their community over there.
All right. Thanks. We'll see you
All
in the
right.
next show.
Good to be back.
Yeah, I'm excited. We almost have football. It's July.